I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. Tonight, another chapter in the power struggle over staffing ambulances in Multnomah County. Must there be 2 paramedics, or would it be okay to have 1 paramedic and 1 EMT? Now, that might seem like a minor difference, but it has become a major argument, and some argue that stubbornness on the part of the county leaders may be putting lives in danger. So, ambulance staffing in Multnomah County, that is our big story tonight. If you need an ambulance in Multnomah County, chances are pretty good you're going to wait longer than you expect. It's something we've covered here for close to 2 years now. Ambulances are frequently late or unavailable even to respond to emergency 911 calls. The county insists that ambulances must hold 2 paramedics. The ambulance company, along with the Portland and Gresham City Councils and fire chiefs and the emergency room doctor, who's a county commissioner, all say that is not necessary, and that the 1 paramedic and 1 EMT model would solve the problem and get more ambulances onto the streets and get to you faster. Well, today the county board finally took up that question. Investigative reporter Evan Watson, who's tracked this every step of the way, joins us now with the new details.
Well, Pat, Multnomah County has finally set a deadline to end private talks about its ambulance response crisis and do something about it. Back in February, when this issue reached its head, Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Pederson started formal mediation sessions with AMR to come to some sort of agreement. It's been quiet ever since, even while thousands of emergency 911 calls led to the same outcome. There were no ambulance crews available to respond. Then today, Vega Pederson said those closed-door sessions with AMR are ending.
We are concluding mediation with AMR no later than Wednesday, July 31st, and we'll be bringing updates and next steps back to the board the following day on Thursday, August 1st. I was purposeful in directing staff to pursue mediation earnestly and diligently with AMR to arrive at a balanced and responsible compromise.
So what does that mean? The impression is that Multnomah County will come to some sort of compromise on its hard and fast rule of 2 paramedics per ambulance for every life-threatening call. County commissioners alluded to this change today as they've been briefed in private, and that's the general sense. The 2 paramedic rule is unusual when you look at EMS systems in Oregon and across the country. Multnomah County health leaders have sworn that it produces better health outcomes. But with the nationwide shortage of paramedics, AMR, fire, and city leaders have pushed back. They argue a 1 paramedic and 1 EMT model would let AMR get more ambulances on the road, get to people faster, and save those lives. Here's Fairview City Council member Ian Todd, one of many local leaders who pushed Multnomah County today to switch to that 1-in-1 model.
On a personal note, 47 months ago, I found my wife unresponsive one morning, and I don't know whether or not a faster response time getting to the hospital would have changed the outcome of her unfortunate passing. I do know that when I got my EMTI training, I was taught time equals tissue, that heart tissue and brain tissue, the speed in which you get to the hospital is the only thing that matters in outcome. EMTs can drive.
City councils in Portland, Gresham, and some East counties passed resolutions earlier this year urging Multnomah County to move to a 1-in-1 model. Fire chiefs are begging for it as their crews are covering for late arriving ambulances, and they're sometimes forced to take people to the hospital on the seats and the floors of fire vehicles. Portland Chief Ryan Gillespie said the county didn't consult with the fire department during the 6 months of private mediation talks.
Meanwhile, this crisis continues and has gone on for far too long, with a short-term solution being proposed by those of us doing the work on the streets. Multnomah County's inaction and unwillingness to take immediate measures continues to put lives at risk.
Then there's Sharon Myron, the ER doctor and Multnomah County Commissioner, who's been leading the charge to change Multnomah County's standards as AMR has failed to meet its response time requirements. Chair Vega Pederson is the only one with the authority to direct the county's EMS medical director to change his staffing model. And Myron criticized Chair Vega Pederson directly today.
I'm just going to say it's shameful it took over a year for you to act, Chair. And what's really, to me, at the crux of this is that over that year, you knew people's lives were at stake and people were harmed. And doing the right thing under pressure now does not erase the year and a half. of suffering that we've seen.
Myron saying doing the right thing there seems to allude to some kind of compromise coming up in the next week. There are reasons to support the county's two-paramedic model. The union representing most paramedics in Multnomah County wants to keep it, saying that most paramedics like working alongside someone with that same level of training. Vega Pederson has also pointed out that AMR is the one failing to meet its contractual standards. That's why she fined them more than $500,000 last year. Why should the company get a break when it's not living up to its promises? But ultimately, speed and availability matter a lot. How does the county plan to get to every life-threatening 911 call on time? Will that require more flexibility? Maybe a hybrid model of some two paramedics, some one-and-one, a trial system? We hope to find out next Thursday, and we'll have the latest for you then.
All right. Thank you, Evan. Great stuff as always. Turning now to our homeless crisis. Enforcement of Portland's camping ban was supposed to start on July 1st. Except that it did not. Then later that week, we had the deadly heat wave where camp removals were paused, and obviously no ban enforcement happened that week either. Then, after the heat passed, we were told to expect an update from the city during the week of July 15th. Well, that week came and went with nothing. And finally today, Portland police tell us no arrests or citations have been given in regards to the camping ban. Zero. So perhaps on August 1st, enforcement will begin. We'll see. But big news out of the state of California today regarding homelessness. An executive order from Governor Gavin Newsom ordering state agencies to crack down and remove encampments. Will it have a ripple effect in our region? Our Blair Best got reaction from homeless folks and service providers here at home.
I buy and sell things, I have a kayak and stuff.
As a homeless man by choice,
It's just old vacuums and stuff that people threw away.
Donovan knows what he needs to survive.
We're like the remnants of pioneers, the hunters and gatherers. We like to live outdoors. This is how we live.
Donovan, like many, chose the streets of Portland over other West Coast cities.
There's not a lot of other areas you can go where there's like 3 accessible day programs for youth that are open all week. So I came here.
I don't think California is a very good place to be a homeless resident.
And she's probably right. Thursday morning, California's governor ordered all state agencies to remove homeless encampments on state land, prioritizing camps that pose safety risks, while giving, quote, reasonable advance notice to homeless people. Crews are ordered to offer to connect people to local services and store their belongings for at least 60 days.
That is going to inform deeply what happens here.
Portland service providers see it as a threat to those on the streets.
I just think there's going to be, again, increased fear, and folks are going to continue to be agitated and not know who to trust.
They set up the resources. We came for the resources. They're mad that we're here using the resources.
Governor Gavin Newsom's order is the first of its kind to come out of last month's Supreme Court decision out of Grants Pass, Oregon, giving cities more power to remove homeless camps. But the ruling has little impact on Oregon due to a state law requiring cities to take into account available shelter space if punishing people for sleeping outside. State Representative Pam Marsh was behind that law.
And I think that bill really acknowledged that, yes, cities need some to be able to take some control and have some regulatory ability to manage health and safety issues. And we have people on the street who, in many cases, have no place to go.
Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler is calling on the state to review that law so Portland can have the tools they, quote, truly need to manage public camping.
So I think the law is providing the right parameters. And I would be quite reticent to get rid of any of that unless I thought there was really a better way to move forward. And I haven't seen that.
Well, this is America. Isn't this our country? We should be able to camp where we want to.
Now, we're still waiting to hear back from Governor Tina Kotek on her response to California's decision to see if it'll impact anything here in Oregon. But last month, and on the heels of that Supreme Court ruling, it appeared unlikely that she would push anyone to make changes to that state law around homeless camping. She said instead her focus is on building more affordable housing. Blair Best, KGW News.
Thank you, Blair. Let's move now to our fires. Much of Oregon is on fire. The Oregon Department of Forestry reports tonight there are 38 active large fires burning across the state. They've burned nearly 1 million acres now. This map gives you an idea of where they are, mainly in central and eastern and southern Oregon, let's just say most of the state. On social media, there are many dramatic pictures and clips. This is a burnout operation at the Durkee Fire. The fire has already consumed 270,000 acres, making it the largest in the country right now. Burnout operations like this take fuel away from the fire before it actually arrives. This is a picture from the Crazy Creek Fire in northeast portion of the Ochiko National Forest, which is east of Prineville and south of Mitchell. Tonight, it covers 10,000 acres and is 0% contained. And this is video from the Telephone Fire in the Malheur National Forest. It's burned 140,000 acres there. The Department of Forestry also put out this picture from the Poe Fire in Klamath County. They wanted to point out what a great job the homeowner here did creating a defensible space around their home. See all that black there to the right? Well, if there were trees close to the house, that would be a very different story. So, good example there. And if you're wondering if folks are arriving in Oregon from other parts of the country, yes, they are. Here are some of them. The National Interagency Coordination Center apparently sent this jet across the country, bringing fire crews to Oregon to help out. Welcome to Oregon. It's good to have you here. Finally, check this out. The Forest Service announced that 1 million gallons of fire retardant have now been put into planes at the Redmond Air Tanker Base. It's the earliest date ever recorded for using that much retardant in Oregon. Gives you an idea of how much is burning. All right, now let's bring in our expert, Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino, for a closer look at conditions around the fires, what's expected over the next few days. And Matt, at least they got a little bit of rain out there?
They did, Pat, and it helped a lot. And it was actually some substantial rain, which the likes of which we haven't seen in weeks, if not months, across parts of the state. So I want to take you back to yesterday. This is a picture from one of the webcams operated by the University of Oregon. This is out near Monument, Oregon. There are several fires in that area, but what caught my eye when I was scanning around looking at this was that is a really strong shower or shaft of rain, probably a thunderstorm, but the point is they were getting rain, some really beneficial rain, and the amounts were impressive. So we'll take you over to Eastern Oregon. Here's Baker City, here's Huntington. The community of Durfee is right in here, hence the name of that fire, the Durfee Fire, right? And look at the rainfall amounts that we got in this region. Half an inch, place called Blue Canyon, south of Baker City. Morgan Mountain, which I believe is in the footprint of the Durfee Fire, had nearly half an inch of rain. Farther west, Prairie City had 0.61 of an inch. And then up in Union, east of La Grande, they had 1 inch diameter hail. So it was a really wild day. The other thing that happened when they got the rain, of course, heavy rain like that, humidity came up. It was at one point last night in Baker City like 78%, which is fantastic because the fire behavior becomes much more manageable when it's high humidity. It doesn't spread as rapidly and as erratically with the high humidity because it can't. So that was a benefit as well. On to the smoke, and you mentioned the 38 fires. I mean, you can see them here in the Cascades. You can see the ones in Washington. Keep your eye on that one. I'll come back to that. Then the other fires in Eastern Oregon, Lone Rock, Cow Creek, and of course the Durfee Fire. But this one, that's the Park Fire near Chico, California, and that one is just pumping smoke out across southeast Oregon. And when the wind shifts and we get more of a southerly flow, we will likely get smoke from these fires to our south. But tomorrow, we're going to get smoke from that fire drifting our way as we pick up some northeasterly winds in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. Now, I don't think our air quality will suffer because this will all be elevated smoke, but you'll see it, you'll notice it, it'll look hazy, right? Okay, so what about the increase in the amount of wildfire we're seeing? It seems like every year we're getting more and more. Although we had a below average year in Oregon last year, but the West did not. And I don't know, it's been like 4 summers since I've been able to go backpacking in British Columbia in the summer because it's always smoky up there, right? So here's South Central Oregon, and look at the increase in the number of what we call fire weather days from 1973 until the last year we had complete data, last year, 2023. That's an increase in 23 days. So what does this mean, fire weather days? It's a combination of days that are hot, days that are dry, low humidity, and days that are windy. Days when you might see a red flag warning for fire weather conditions, when you would get rapid and erratic fire spread. And sometimes, it used to be like we'd get lightning storms and you'd get some sleeper fires. They were kind of smoldering, didn't really flare up. Well, you get a fire weather day and they flare up really fast and they spread. But again, this points to the climate change fingerprint that's on our fire season. With the atmosphere being a couple degrees hotter than it used to be, that just sets a higher benchmark for the environmental conditions that fires like, hot and dry, to spread, right? Now, here's some good news for you. Looking west from our camera in the Dalles on the Oregon Veterans Home, this is live. We're not seeing any smoke from the microwave tower fire out near Mosier that flared up, last week, a couple days ago. And the winds are really strong out there, so the crews have done an amazing job on that. The winds in the Dalles will drop off overnight tonight after sunset. And this is fairly representative of what the winds will do in eastern Oregon as well. They're going to drop off tonight, and we catch a break from the strong winds tomorrow. Again, 38 fires burning in Oregon, as Pat mentioned, more in Washington, more in California, more in British Columbia. So it's burning up pretty good around the west these days. Again, we're going to get some smoke tomorrow, Pat, but it should just be a one-day deal.
All right. Thanks for the comprehensive update there, Matt. Great stuff. Up next on the story, another critical element to understanding wildfires is knowing exactly what is burning. Is it sagebrush, grass, timber? We'll show you how the Bureau of Land Management determines that now and how AI could soon be used to make that easier when the story returns. The Northwest is shrouded in smoke from multiple wildfires, and fire danger is high across the entire region. Part of understanding fire risk is knowing what fuels are out there. Sophia Bliss from our Environment Northwest team talked to the Bureau of Land Management to see how they do that now and how artificial intelligence could be used in the not-so-distant future.
Fires continue to burn aggressively across the region.
My job title is a fire planner for the Boise District BLM.
But Nolan Page says so far it's a different story in the Boise District for the Bureau of Land Management.
We're just above average, I would imagine. What we're noticing right now, though, that's different from years past, is we've had 2 to 3 to 4 slow seasons.
Page adds, it's not that fires haven't sparked, they just haven't burned as many acres.
And it's really causing a lot of fuel loading, a lot of buildup, excess grass from the years past.
BLM crews track how much moisture plants are retaining.
We have 6 fuel moisture sites on the district, scattered all over the district to get a different variability of elevations is what we're looking for. And the main thing we're looking at on that is our herbaceous cover, our sagebrush. We have a couple sites where we will check juniper.
It's tough work, but there's an app in development that could make it a little easier.
We believe in using technology and AI for good.
The Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence is based in Seattle.
Every summer in Seattle, we get impacted by the wildfire. So we start thinking, what can we do in the wildlands area to help? and reduce wildfires.
Virginia Shahley is a technical program manager with the Allen Institute. She says the nonprofit sent engineers and researchers to see what this process looks like right now. They teamed up with University of Idaho professor Heather Heward to do so.
We realized the effort is very labor intensive.
Whoever is doing the evaluation has to go into the field loaded down with gear.
They have to look at the reference image that they also carry, compare that to what they see on the ground, and they have to apply a formula and use their calculator and write down their findings.
The Fuels Data app aims to make this a much simpler process.
Basically, practitioner can go out into the field, take the photograph of the fuel bed using their digital camera or camera phone, and the AI will calculate right away how much fuel loading from that image.
Right now, Shahley says they need people from across the Northwest to submit more images to the app so the AI continues to get trained.
We're gathering the data set that they're collecting so that way we can continue to build our AI and make their job even easier.
For Environment Northwest, I'm Sophia Bliss.
Ah, that's pretty cool. In Washington State, there are times when landowners are allowed to do prescribed burns, that's strategic burning on private property. The Fuels Data app is an approved resource with the Washington Department of Natural Resources for landowners to get their permit. People collect their fuel loading data through the app, and using that information, they then submit their burn permit. So it's already in use. Up next on The Story, in November, Washington voters will decide whether or not to repeal the state's Climate Commitment Act, which caps emissions and charges polluters. That money goes towards climate-related projects. But opponents blame the law for jacking up gas prices, and they want it thrown out. New polling shows which way voters are leaning when The Story returns.
It's time for summer's best party, the Clark County Fair. Go to clarkcofair.com.
You have a huge decision coming up, whether to ditch the state's climate law. Polling shows the folks planning to vote to dump it are in the lead, but it's close, and about 18% of voters have still not made up their minds. Supporters of the law call it crucial for a green future on several fronts, while opponents call it a money grab that has pushed gas prices higher and higher. Erica Zucco has the story.
The poll commissioned by King 5, the Seattle Times, and UW's Center for an Informed Public shows that 18% of voters are still undecided on I-2117, which would repeal the state's carbon market program. Governor Jay Inslee has toured a number of sites in recent months to draw attention to projects that will be funded through the Climate Commitment Act. The act created a cap and invest program that caps emissions and charges polluters, requiring them to buy allowances and using that money to fund environmental and climate-related projects. Brian Haywood sponsored I-2117 to repeal the program, arguing costs of the allowances were passed on to drivers at the pump.
Is this good for the environment, or is this hurting me at the gas tank? And the truth, I think, is it's a money grab that's wrapped up like it's going to do something for the environment.
A broad coalition of supporters ranging from environmental groups to big businesses funded No on 2117 to fight the repeal. They dispute this is really about gas prices.
If they had wanted to lower gas prices, they would have written an initiative to repeal the gas tax. The only guarantee we have with 2117 is that it is going to remove protections for our clean water, clean air, our forests, and our farmland.
48% of polled voters say they plan to vote yes. 34% say they plan to vote no. 18% are still undecided. Opponents of a repeal point out the poll did not show a full financial impact statement. Haywood says he thinks undecided voters will play a key role. Haywood is also sponsoring an attempt to reverse regulations discouraging natural gas. An early poll of voters has 54% supporting the effort as described, but signatures are still being verified and it's not yet officially on the ballot. Both sides have about 3 months left to educate voters before this is on the ballot in November.
All right, we'll be watching. Hey, that's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching. But remember, the story, our story, never ends. We do want to give you a heads up, though. Some big programming changes over the next 2 weeks, thanks to the Paris Olympics. Starting next week, we will not have a show for you until Monday, August 12th. How about that? Here's what each weeknight will look like instead. The Sunrise team will be with you from 4:30 a.m. till 7 a.m. Normal newscasts will air at 6:30 and 7 p.m., followed by the Olympic Zone at 7:30, and then the late news at 11. The story team will be hard at work over the next couple of weeks preparing for our return to August 12th, but we'll be back with you tomorrow night at 6:30. In the meantime, here's the Eiffel Tower. They're testing the lights. This is live from Paris.
See the world's top golfers at the Portland Classic.